What we're trying to do is just provide the growers with a few more options. Options around a toolbox that adds to harvest seed methods, adds to agronomic methods by having improved competitive cultivars. And in the case of our work, we're focusing on weed competitive wheats. So that's the main drive. It's the genetics is with the seed. It doesn't cost the growers any more. But what it does give the growers, it gives the growers some confidence in being able to better manage the development of herbicide resistance and basically maintain a longer life in the actives that they're using to control those weeds. Wheat is a very conservative species. It's so fine-tuned around the world for the very best grain quality for milling, disease, and in turn, I guess, breeders tend to be quite restrained in how diverse they can go in their breeding program. So as you bring in new genetics to improve one part of the system, you run the risk of losing something important. And so I guess breeders have been reluctant to go too wide in their genetics work and go wide to look at other genetics that are going to be available. So what we do as CSIRO is we have a longer term view in that we try and understand what it is that's limiting the performance of our wheat crops, whether it be drought, whether it be acid soils or weeds. And we then look afar for those genes that we think are going to be important in improving the crop, improving the genetics of the crop so that those genes are introduced from all over the world. In the case of wheat competitiveness, around 30 different sources from around the world, China, India, Argentina, right throughout the world. We then spend quite a bit of time getting the breeding right so that we then can deliver to the commercial breeders something which is very close to a commercial wheat but needs a bit more tweaking. But a lot of the hard genetics in bringing those new genes from overseas, that's all been done. So the breeders can then focus on what they do well, which is the breeding for disease, quality and yield. So we've had one go at it, and that was some work that was initiated back 2006. And the breeders liked the material, but at the time they weren't ready for the material. So we delivered that material that was tested by various organisations, liked the look of it, just lacked a bit in terms of yield because our focus wasn't yield, it was on wheat competitiveness. So what the GRDC have done in their wisdom was, okay, let's give you a bit more money, let's try and bring in some of the new sources of wheat competitiveness and you do a bit more breeding so that when you deliver to the commercial breeders a line or a breeding line that has that wheat competitiveness, it actually has the necessary disease, necessary quality and yield potential of our current wheats. In doing so, the breeders are much more likely to take that material on and use it in their commercial program. It's not seen to be different, it's seen to be part of the program because it's in the background, they know it has the adaptation, it has the disease and quality the breeders know, so it just becomes part of their breeding effort. So we're at that point now. We're about to release around 5,000 lines this year, and then the next 2 years we'll have a range of longer season types with some very long season types, so potentially another 15,000 lines to go to the breeding programs. We're very hopeful that we'll have something which will either make it as a commercial variety, that's a bit of a long shot, but certainly something that is one cross away from a commercial release, so 5 to 7 years from being seen in the paddock, in a grower's paddock.